Okay, it's 10:45. I think we can start. So my name is Andrea Campo, I'm product owner for Advanced Analytics in Focused Run. And today I'm going to discuss with you a few things about Focused Run, specifically the latest innovation that we released this year, just a couple of them, and then how to configure our Prometheus Exporter. So REST API, OpenTelemetry, it's a huge topic for us, and we are continuously working on it. And then I will describe a selection of functionalities that we are planning to release very soon. Okay, so specifically for the agenda, latest innovation, we will talk about the tactical dashboard, the backup details. That's one of the latest feature released with the FP3. And then a couple of new functionalities for the OCC dashboard, the RCA data provider and the card renderer. Then we will discuss a little bit this Prometheus Exporter, some details about this API for Focused Run. And then a couple of upcoming functionalities, the OCC series renaming, and the new Advanced Integration Monitoring data provider. Okay, so let's start from the beginning, latest innovation. So this is one of the latest thing that we did for the tactical dashboard. You may know that if you add an ABAP or a system or an HANA database, you will have the possibility to access several information, several scenarios, different KPIs. One of them is the database backup. This describes the number of days since the last successful backup. It's a system monitoring metric, but we didn't provide any other detail, okay, besides the number of days and then the trend for this metric. So right now what we can do, we can provide a detailed view. So if you click on that scenario, you will be able to see a table containing several information about the latest backup, the type of backup, and the duration, and so on. So we have several attributes, and of course we are limiting the number of entries, but this will give you more details on what is happening with your HANA database backups. Okay, there are some prerequisites. For example, you need to have a specific version of the SAP Host agent. This is because of how we are implementing this thing. Okay, so we are reusing an existing functionality. So you have several possibilities. You can install the latest version of the SAP Host agent, which basically includes the query that is necessary to retrieve this information. It's a simple query on the mbackup catalog table on your HANA database. Or you can download also the file from a dedicated node. Okay, this file will contain all the necessary objects and statement to make this possible. Okay, and of course you need at least Focused Run 4.3 and the latest version of the node. Okay, maybe I can show you just on the system how this is looking. So let me interact a little bit, and maybe, yes. So this is the tactical dashboard. So maybe we can go here. So as you can see, we can define different systems. In this case, we have an ABAP system. We have also added an entry for the HANA database. This will work either from the ABAP system or directly from the HANA database, and simply, if you click, you will see the details about the backup. Okay, so the duration, the size, the destination. If there are some comments in the database table, we will show it. So you can see here we have several differential backup with an average of 40-something minutes. and we have a complete data backup with higher size and much higher duration, of course. Okay. So let's go back to the presentation. And second thing, this was a new data provider that was included in FP3. So it can be used to display several information about especially your HANA database, but also about ABAP work processes. It's basically what you can see already from the system analysis application. If you add the generic view, you can select more or less the same things, and several capabilities are offered. So we can show you information metrics related to ABAP work processes, and as you can see, the vast majority is related to HANA database, but we also have some details about OS processes. So you could build, for example, a detailed view on the trend of the size of specific HANA tables in your system. Okay. So you, of course, during the configuration, you can specify different options besides the initial selection of the capability, and then a metric selection that depends on the capability that you have selected. So in this case, if you see the HANA table size, we can select the metric record count, and we can filter, for example, on specific tables, okay? And we can really build a customized view of our system and the different HANA tables, for example, okay? So second thing that we did, the third thing that we did in the last release was a new renderer. So it's a new way to display the data from the OCC dashboard, okay? It's basically a way that we use to display the data, the different metrics, the different time series that are returned by the data providers using tiles. And we have actually 3 sides for this renderer. So we have a small one, a medium, and a large tile. So if we use a small one, we can, of course, like for any renderer, we can build our thresholds. We can define some thresholds, and the consequence will be that the tiles will be rated. So the rating will be calculated, and then the correct color will be assigned. And in case you use the more compact format, so the small, as you can see, the whole background will be colored. Otherwise, if you use the medium or the large sides, the number within the tile will be colored. And as you can see, you can also add a small optional microchart within the tile. So it's very convenient. I will show you later to display availability data for a bunch of systems, or I don't know, the response time from different transactions, and so on and so on. Let's proceed. Okay, so we have different filters available for this card renderer. So you can work with these filters and these options to change the way this is sorted. So we can sort based on the value, on the rating. So, for example, you may want to see only the red stuff, okay, and you may want to use different options to filter. And we can also filter based on the value. So, which means we can build a dashboard where we say, I want to see only systems with a certain response time or a certain availability. Okay. And with that, we complete the first section. Okay, there is much more. Actually, you can also access the Delta documents that we publish at each release. It contains more information, but I just wanted to give you an overview. This will be useful also for me later on to do another demo on the upcoming functionalities. I will use the card renderer for that. So let's talk about the advanced analytics APIs. So this is a full, it's part of our strategy to put you in the position to extract the data from Focused Run using our APIs from virtually every data provider. So if you see or if you are able to configure something in the OCC dashboard, typically you build a query, you select a data provider, and so on. This information, these metrics will be available also to our outbound APIs. We have REST and OData APIs, but one of the latest innovation was in the REST API was the creation of this Prometheus Exporter. So let's go here and let's see what we're talking about. So here we have our Focused Run system. As I said, we have different data provider available. You can consume the data in different ways. Okay, you can build an OCC dashboard and use the OData service filtering on the dashboard to expose the data in a certain way. You can use the REST API that, as you can see, is also used by a specific plugin that we developed for Grafana to consume the data directly from the Focused Run system. So it's a live request. By the way, this plugin, it's on the public GitHub. It's an open source project. You can download, build, you can deploy it on your Grafana instance, and then after just a very simple configuration, you will be able to extract the data, or let's say to configure the queries to display the data exactly or very similarly to what you do already with the OCC dashboard. But this is a live request, okay? So you build your dashboard in Grafana, you refresh, and then the request will be sent to the Focused Run system. There is also an alternative. So in some case, this is not the best, because maybe we want to protect a little bit the Focused Run system, or we want to give you the possibility to export the data in a more, let's say, standard way, or maybe because we want to protect the Focused Run system from all this access, you may want to use an intermediate object, okay? In this case, Prometheus. It's a time series database. It's open source and widely used in this context. And this Prometheus system, it can scrape metrics, so can pull metrics for certain endpoints, depending on the configuration, and then store these metrics in its internal database. And the format that Prometheus recognizes, it's widely used across many products and many applications. I did the first day a session on SAP Cloud ALM. We have in SAP Cloud ALM also some raw outbound APIs, and one of these APIs, it's capable of exporting metrics exactly in this format. So there are a lot of applications that can present metrics in a format that Prometheus can understand. That's what we did with this Prometheus Exporter. So we modified the REST API, and we gave you the possibility to export metrics from Focused Run in this specific format. Okay. Here there are several possibilities. So you can configure a job directly in Prometheus. It's part of the configuration, so that it pulls periodically the data from the Focused Run endpoint. Or you can use an intermediate object, an OpenTelemetry collector. It's a kind of proxy that can receive the metrics and then can forward the metrics after some processing. This means also that you could use the OpenTelemetry collector to pull the data from Focused Run and maybe send a specific metric to your SAP Cloud ALM instance. Maybe you are using SAP Cloud ALM, you have Focused Run, and you want to integrate the information that you have in SAP Cloud ALM with the metric that it's only available in Focused Run. This could be possible if you use the OpenTelemetry collector, because you can configure the OpenTelemetry collector also to push metrics to Focused Run. Okay, but in the end, that's the overall picture. So you can either use the plugin for Grafana to periodically to build your dashboards, let's say, or you can build dashboards in Grafana using the Prometheus plugin that will retrieve the data directly from Prometheus. In this case, the advantage is that the data is there, so you can configure the dashboard from a data source that it's part of the standard installation of Grafana, and also you can keep the metrics, even raw metrics, for a very long period of time. Okay, so there are virtually no limitation. It's only based on the configuration of the Prometheus instance. While we know that, for example, in Focused Run, raw metrics can be kept for a limited amount of time. Okay, typically 1 month. Okay. So how does this work specifically? Again, this outbound metric API then translates the metrics from a specific format in Focused Run to this Prometheus format. You can go in Prometheus and configure several jobs. Each job can scrape one or multiple metrics depending on the data provider. So for example, you can configure a job on Prometheus to periodically collect all the performance metrics from one or more systems. Okay. Most of the providers in Focused Run and the ones that you know in the OCC dashboard are supported. So how does it work, this configuration? Actually, you need to send a GET request to a specific endpoint in Focused Run, along with some attributes. Okay, so these parameters, you can see this in different color. It looks complicated, but in the end it's not. You need to select a specific, the name of the provider. You need to provide some filters that you're going to use. You need to assign a name to a metric, and then you need to define a period, a semantic period, last 7 days, current 2 hours, and so on. And then a method, an optional method for calculating the value. When this is done, you send, this is a concrete example. So in this case, we are using the system monitoring data provider. We are using the GUID filter metric names. And then we are using this specific GUID, which is a GUID of a specific system. By the way, you can also use a different object, the scope views. These are the scope views that you can save in the system monitoring or CSA application, and it's a way to save a bunch of system in one object. You can provide the ID of this object, and this way you can collect this metric or metrics from several systems at once. Okay. Then we have the name of the metric, it's the dialog response time. We provide a name. This will be, the name in red is dialog response time is the name of the metric that will be used in Prometheus to store the metric. And then we provide resolution and period. Okay. Here the method is last. It means out of these 2 hours that we are selecting with the resolution row, we want to take the very last data point. So in Prometheus, you specify your job and you can configure the frequency of execution. And it means that at every execution of this scrape job, we will get always the last data point in the period of 2 hours. And what you see here, this text, is the typical output of a Prometheus metric. Okay? So we have the type of metric, in this case, gauge, which is the only type of metric which is supported by the API, by the way, and we have the different labels that are used to describe the metric that is collected. And at the end, the most interesting part is the value, 285, and the timestamp. Okay, so this timestamp will be used to store the value in Prometheus. There is another parameter that I'm not using here, but I got a lot of questions, so I decided to add a couple of slides to hoping to clarify the concept. So what happens when you use these APIs and you want to collect a specific data point, depending on the data provider, the meaning of the data point is a little bit different. So if you use, for example, a real user monitoring data provider, the last data point for an hourly resolution will be actually the data point, let's say now it's 11.6, right? So it will be actually the data point that starts at 11 until 11.6. So it will cover this period of time, which means that we can consider this last data point kind of incomplete. So you are asking for an hour, and then the API is returning actually an incomplete data point, okay? So in some cases, what you may want to do is to select, instead of the last data point, maybe the second last data point. And that's why we introduced also this additional parameter. So it's a shift parameter. You can add it at the end. You can assign a value, okay? This is just to explain the concept. Let's say, depending on the resolution, like in this example, we have 15 minutes, right? You select a resolution and a certain period. In this case, current 2 hours, okay? So all the period is divided in different buckets, okay? And let's say that now we are here just a few minutes after the hour, like let's say 11:35, okay? So what happens, this is what I said before, the last data point available using the shift 0, which is the default value, will be exactly this data point, which will consider this exact frame, okay? The shift parameter can be used exactly to ask the API to return, instead of that data point, the previous one, or depending on the value that you assign to the shift parameter. To be even more clear, this is the OCC dashboard. I think it's the response time from real user monitoring, last 6 hours with hourly granularity. So you see the most updated one, it's at 17, okay? It's 126. This is what you get actually when you use the parameter shift 0, okay? So we get here the value 126. If you use the parameter shift 1, then you will get this value here, and so on, okay? Why you may want to use this? Because maybe you want to always record in Prometheus a full hour, let's say, okay? So if you use the shift parameter 1, you will be sure that you are using the last hour, and then Prometheus will contain full hours data points. Okay, I hope like this it's clear. Please ask me questions if this is not clear. Okay, I hope we will have some time later on to get this more clear, or to give you some answers. Last thing about Prometheus, this is also a question that I'm getting very frequently. We need to provide in the configuration several parameters and several filters depending on the provider, okay? So how can you get information about these different filters and values available for each provider? There are different ways. So we actually, this is news that I'm communicating now, we are just publishing a blog with concrete examples for each data provider, okay, and with some values. We can show you all the possible combinations, but if you need additional information, you can use this method. So you can either use a specific endpoint, this provider's filter endpoint, to get all the filters for a specific provider with their values, or you can, for example, start the configuration in the OCC dashboard, and from there you can see in the editor, when you build the query, you will see the values of the different parameters, okay? And here, finally, okay, let's say you have configured your URL, you're happy with it, you have your filters, and you know that you want to periodically persist these metrics in Prometheus. This is how you should configure this is just an example of a Prometheus configuration file. In this case, we have a scrape interval of 1 minute, so every minute Prometheus will scrape this specific endpoint that is created out of these parameters here. Provider system monitoring, metric name, dialog response time, and so on and so on, and method last. Okay, there are also additional options like the honor timestamp true. This is just, we can specify this if we want to actually use the timestamp that is returned by Focused Run. Okay. So, just a small example, okay? I want to show you a couple of things. First, let's see. So, first of all, this is a Prometheus instance, okay? Here we have configured several targets, so several jobs. Actually, in the Prometheus YAML file, we have defined different jobs. As you can see, some of them are for SAP Cloud ALM, but we also have several dedicated to Focused Run. And again, the configuration is quite convenient. When you configure in Prometheus your query, then you can access the target information. And you can see here in this case, for example, let's hope this is, oops, sorry. Here, these are the different parameters that we are using. And again, this is quite convenient because you can also click here, and by clicking here, you will get, actually, you will be able to access the URL that is built starting from there, and you will be able to check the output of the query. Okay, and you can also do more. I mean, you can access in the graph view of the Prometheus instance. You can access the different metrics, and you can see. Let's say you can have an overview on the metrics that are used here. Here I'm not sure. For example, here we have this the response time. Okay, actually this is from SAP Cloud ALM, but it's the concept that counts. Okay. So you can access the data here, and in the end, you can, of course, access the data from Grafana. So this is just a simple example. If you see here in the editor of the query, we are using as a data source Prometheus directly, and here we are just using a specific metric, a room request overview. So you can imagine this comes from a real user monitoring. We are filtering for a specific instance, and here, in this case, we are getting the number of green executions in real user monitoring for type 102. I think this is probably dialog response time, okay? So, and with this, I mean, we can, this information is retrieved directly from Prometheus, and we can get data from 90 days or I guess even 1 year, probably, if we have enough data. Yeah, 1 year. So you can see here we have three queries to return the number of green executions, yellow, and red executions. Okay. So again, you have a complex, a simple, detailed overview on a system or for a metric. You can use our plugin and access directly the Focused Run system. If you want to provide a huge amount of aggregated data for a very long period of time, then you can use the Prometheus Exporter. Okay. In the future, we will do much more. Let's say it's in our planning to provide also, besides the Prometheus format, also the OpenTelemetry and protobuf format. This will come in the future. I can't give you details about that, but we will end up like the outbound APIs that are available for SAP Cloud ALM. Okay. Let's go back to That's not a good sign. Yes, yes. Okay. Thank you, Apple. Okay, so let's continue. In the end, Houston, there is still a problem. Okay, so this is what I just showed you live. So no need to go in further details. Upcoming functionalities. I will. This is a lab preview, first of all. So, but I will show you two things. So first, a functionality that we call series rename by regular expression. Whenever I hear about regular expression, I'm a little bit scared, but it's not so concerning, I promise. And then new data provider, this is also something that was requested by many customers, the advanced integration monitoring. Okay, let's start with the first one. And this is somehow related also to the card renderer view that I described at the beginning. So we have in our dashboards, we can provide access to several applications, okay, and using different APIs. So the OCC dashboard is a good example. You can select your data provider, which in turn will access the data, the storage from the different applications in Focused Run, right? The thing is that every application returns the data in a more or less different way. And especially when it comes about the series name, okay? So, for example, you use system monitoring, you're asking for multiple metrics, you get in return multiple series, and then the name of the series will be in a certain format, but then maybe you use real user monitoring, and there will be a slightly different format. Okay, this is because we are talking about different applications and different way of organizing the labels that help you to identify the series within each application. So what we thought it would be good is to provide a way to manipulate the name of the series. Because in some circumstances, this is something really useful, okay? Look at this. So here we have a real user monitoring request type overview. Maybe I want to show I don't know, the response time of some transactions in my system. And you see this is the name of the series. I mean, they always start with something, response time something, depending on the metric that you select, and then the interesting part, the fun part is at the end. So in some cases, you may want to manipulate, to truncate, or to do something with this series to make it more interesting, okay? So this is what we did here. So there is an additional option now for each query, because this is a configuration at query level, okay? It's called rename series, and we provide two fields, match and replace. So you can use this feature to rename your series, to truncate it, and so on, okay, using a regular expression. It works like this. So example again with the real user monitoring. When using the drill down option, of course, we have several series returned, and the series are in this format, okay? So you have response time, the extended SID, the type, okay, the request type, and then the interesting part in green, it's the one that we would like to show. And in this case, we can use the regular expression. So we are using capture groups, okay, to isolate part of the series, and then you can decide what you want to keep, okay? So in this case, for example, we are using 3 capture groups. The first is response time, blah, blah, blah. And then until dialog underscore, and then we use a capture group to take everything else, and we want to isolate also the final character that we don't want, okay? So in this case, the replacement pattern is 2, because it's the second group here, and then like this we can show you what is interesting. Maybe let's do a short live demo for this, and here I needed to stop the presentation. Hope this will be possible. Yes, okay. Here, so let's create a new page, okay? Let's do it like this, okay? So we start with the configuration of our query. Okay, we select, for example, last 24 hours. We use the line chart, and maybe we create now a query. Let's get rid of the legend for now. We configure the query, and we select the data providers. In this case, we want to use a real user monitoring request type overview. We select our system, FQ4, okay? And we want to show all the requests of type dialog, okay? And maybe we want to use the metric response time, and we want to drill down by request name. So this will be the result. So you see we have several line charts, and these are not very distinguishable, and the situation is worse if we use the card renderer like this, okay? So what we can do here, maybe we make this a little bit smaller. You go in properties, and in this multi-series settings area, you go here and you see that we have this match and replace. Okay, so we could create the first group response underscore time, just only this, and then we take everything else, okay? And here we check the second group. So ideally here you see that response time disappeared, and it's remaining FQD4 dialog, blah, 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 okay? So maybe a more convenient way also to do this is also to copy what we want to eliminate. We go here, we add this to response time, okay? So this should be the first part, okay? Dialog, and it means keep everything else. So the second group now, there are no mistakes. Yeah, okay, so we go in card renderer, and now we see. We could also eliminate the last character using a third group, but I guess you got the gist of it. Okay, so let's make this better, maybe 500 and 1,000 to give some colors to the thing. Okay, So this is how it's working. It will work with every data provider where this makes sense, and it will give you much more flexibility in renaming your series, okay? And will work with all standard POSIX regular expressions, okay? So let's go back to our presentation. Let's hope, yeah, this time it's okay. New thing, advanced integration monitoring, data provider. So here we have a new, totally brand new data provider. The old one dedicated to document monitoring will stay, but for probably in the next release we will make it deprecated. Let's see. And what you can do with it, actually, it's you can configure dashboards to visualize the distribution of messages, for example, in a specific status, error, success, and so on, over a selected period of time. Okay, so there are several configurations available, several filters available. So at the beginning, you can select the component type. We have technical system, cloud services. And depending on the component and the type that you select, then you will have additional filters. Okay, we closely worked with the advanced integration monitoring team to make this right. Okay, and you will be able also to filter for artifact name, and you will also have some group by options, by artifact, status group, and component. Of course, when you provide group by options or the possibility to drill down using different dimensions at the same time, the number of series, there is a risk that the number of series might explode. So there are some limitations, okay, to the number of series that can be displayed. But in the end, you will be able to configure these categories initially, okay? So in the first release, you will have this, and then, as you might know, there are something like 40 plus categories available, and we will work with the advanced integration monitoring team to improve this and add additional categories, but they will be always available for this data provider, okay? So no new configuration, no new, as soon as something is available, we will communicate this in the proper way, and this will be soon available. Maybe I can show you how it works directly in the system, okay? We can create another page. Here, you can select, again, last 24 hours. Here we use a column chart, and maybe we want to stack these column charts, and then here we add queries, okay? We can configure our query and select this advanced integration monitoring data provider. As you can see here, we have cloud services available, technical systems, and depending on the type you use, okay, you will have different categories, okay? So here, if we select cloud services, for example, we may want to monitor the integration suite messages in a certain status, okay? We could select one or multiple components. And finally, we have only this metric available and different filters for the artifact name, as I said, and the different status groups, okay? Here, we will group by status group and component, okay? You do this, then you will get this result. Actually, maybe it's better to select, for example, the last 7 days, okay? And with this, you will be able to monitor and the messages and the status of the messages for different components and over different period of times. And please remember, you can always change also the color of the series. Okay, so if you're using these multi-series settings here, you could select, I don't know, the ones in error, and you could select, for example, red for it, and so on and so on. Okay, so this you see that now these are in red, so that you can make this better looking for your users. And with this, I think I'm on time. It's really it's amazing for me. And so I finished my presentation. Open for question if you have any. There's a microphone.
Yeah, one question in regards to the service provider on Grafana's side. You have shown there was only a one-to-one connection between Focused Run and Grafana. Is this also possible to connect several Focused Runs into one Grafana plugin?
Yes. The way it works in Grafana, you create data source connections, okay, of a specific type, and you can create different connection of the same type, in this case, ALM plugin Grafana connection, to different Focused Run system. So you could, in theory, build a dashboard showing metrics coming from dev, test, prod, and even mix it with the subcloud ALM or any other data source, actually.
Thanks.
Welcome. So, thank you for attending this session. It was a pleasure. I'm here for questions if you are too shy to ask in public. Okay? Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.